If you guys are cramming for your fantasy hockey draft right now, this could be the perfect video for you. Today, I'm going to be giving you guys the best player at every single position in fantasy hockey, along with a league winner, a best value, and a sleeper at every single position as well. Let's stop wasting time and get right into the video. All right, guys, here is the criteria for today's video. This was a fan favorite last year, and I decided to bring it back. I loved doing this kind of video last year. You guys really seem to enjoy it as well. Here's the criteria for today. So we're not going to be including players earlier than ADP 24. We're specifically ignoring the first couple rounds. If you don't know how your first couple rounds are going to go right now, go check out Mike's strategy video. We are also going to be using the player's primary position. Now, this could be his primary position from last year or the fact that we believe he's going to play a different primary position this year, but typically those dual eligible players will have a good idea of where they're playing at given their lineups. Onto the criteria, we're going to have a best overall player. This is the best possible player you can pick outside of ADP 24. Next is the league winner, who is the player that has the best chance to have a monster fantasy hockey season. Then we're going to go to best value. This is purely based off of ADP. This is quality of player versus where you're getting him in drafts. And then we have our sleeper, and our criteria for sleepers, they must be later than round 13, which is ADP 156. So again, we're going to be going based off of ADP for the majority of this video. And starting off at centers, we have Brayden Point, ADP 33. He's going to be the best overall center available. There were other centers in this range that were really good, but Point is just so incredibly consistent. His goal totals, his power play points on top of that, even his point totals. Shot volume isn't the greatest, but again, it doesn't hurt you because of how efficient of a scorer this guy is. He's had 97 goals over the past 2 seasons. The only 2 players that have had more goals in the past 2 seasons are David Pastrnak and Austin Matthews. These guys are bona fide top 7 picks in the draft, and Point, you're going to be able to get him at round 3. That's an absolute joke. He's the best available. If this guy drops beyond the second round, pick him up and laugh at your league mates. For our league winner at center, we have Tage Thompson of the Buffalo Sabres. He is center right wing eligible, but typically plays just at the center position. Again, ADP 48. You're getting this guy into the 3rd, 4th round. He just has so much upside still to his game. He's such a talented shooter. He's got an insanely high shot volume on top of that. Could easily tickle the 50 goal mark this year if he gets back to it. The power play is going to be better this year. I promise you, he's going to get back to his elite goal scoring ways and has so much upside. Was a former 1st round pick last year as well. So he does have that pedigree of being an elite scorer with an elite shot volume. I want everything to do with Tage this year. He could be an absolute league winner if you get him outside, even the 2nd round. John Tavares, ADP 95. Really, really good option. I know his scoring has kind of slowed down a little bit. He's not quite the point of game player that we saw, but he was still close to 70 points last year. Has a really good shot volume on top of that of around the 270 mark, and then he gets you 100 hits, 30 goals, 270 shots, 100 hits for a guy that you're getting at ADP close to 100. Like, it's insane value. The power play totals are always going to be there. I can't see them taking him off of power play 1. I know there's a big misconception that this guy's completely washed now because he's kind of slowed down a little bit in terms of his just like visually he's slowed down because he's getting a little bit older, but he's still an absolute monster in fantasy hockey. ADP 95 is ridiculous for this guy. Pick him up. Again, great value at the center position. And then at sleeper, we have Adam Fantilli. Outside of round 13, ADP 156. This guy is so incredibly talented. He is going to be a superstar. Let me say that again. Superstar in the National Hockey League at some point in his career. He has all the tools available to him. He has the talent. I think he breaks out this year. He was in my breakout video. It's just such insane value that you're going to be able to get based off his ADP this year. He's going to be a 60+ point guy. He's going to hover around that 30 goal mark. His shot volume is great. He hits on top of that. He's such a good pick this year, guys. Please pick him up because everybody is going to be on this guy next year once he has his breakout season. I'm on Fantilli this year, and you should be too. Moving on to left wing, we have Jason Robertson. There were a lot of options here. I looked at a guy like Jake Gensel as well. Kyle Connor was in this mix, but J-Rob just I can't ignore him. Even though he's not in camp currently with a slight injury, I'm not worried about it whatsoever. This guy still has a good ceiling to him, and I believe he should bounce back. I'm a little bit worried about Wyatt Johnston potentially playing on his line this year. I'm not sure how that's going to affect J-Rob's shot totals, as we saw it kind of dip down last year, but he still has 40 goal upside. He's got 30 power play points. He can easily get to that 100 point mark again in his career. I believe he's that talented enough as a player. Regardless of whether the shot volume is there, any player that you can get outside of the first 2 rounds that could potentially hit 90 to 100 points, you want on your team. And Jason Robertson is one of those guys. 40 goal upside. Like I said, his shot volume should be solid. Again, I want everything to do with this guy outside of the first 2 rounds. I was actually pleasantly surprised to see how many people were legitimately on Timo Meier this season. I don't know if it's just what we've seen in our community here, but this guy is going to be an absolute machine. We learned today in training camp, he's playing on a line with Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt, 2 elite playmakers. Sheldon Keefe loves to run his big dogs a ton of minutes as well. I think he's in a great spot for next season. I think he's got 40+ goal upside. I wouldn't be surprised, honestly, if this guy could hit 50 goals if Jack Hughes and Jesper Bratt are playing alongside him the entire year. That's just insane. And then you add the shot volume and the hit volume. Meier is an absolute fantasy stud. He's going to be a top 30 player, period. I'm very bullish on him being a league winner this year. Best value ADP 119, Uri Slafkovsky, one of the hottest players to finish off the end of last season. He had 19 points in 20 games. Slav was absolutely clicking on that top line alongside Cole Caulfield and Nick Suzuki. He's going to be power play 1. He's going to be line 1. He's going to get a ton more minutes as to what he saw last season. I'm expecting a big jump for him this year. He was in my breakouts video. And even though I'm expecting him to jump in terms of production, even if he hovers around that 50-60 point mark, he still has really good peripherals on top of that to kind of cover his floor. I'm really excited to see the big man next year, and you should be too. At ADP 119, this is an absolute steal. And then finally, our sleeper, Boone Jenner. He is in the left wing category, typically has been a center, but news out of camp is he's playing top line. Jenner shoots, Jenner hits, he blocks at a really high rate as well, and then he'll just chip in the goal category for you. Very, very safe player later in your drafts to kind of pick up. Again, a little bit of an injury history, but I love the fact that he just hits every category at a really high rate. Moving on to Mitch Marner, our best overall right winger at ADP 30. If you can get, like I said earlier, 100-point player outside of the first 2 rounds, you jump at that opportunity every single time. I don't care about what the Toronto media says. Don't care about whether or not people think he's good in the playoffs. I want everything to do with this guy next year. If I'm able to get him outside of the first 2 rounds, that's an absolute steal in any scenario for me. Around a 200 shot mark isn't great, but again, it's serviceable given the fact that he's going to get you close to 100 points every single season and is well over a point a game, and those power play totals are going to be really up there as well in that 30+ range. I love Marner. The fact that you're able to get him outside of the 3rd round sometimes this year is absolutely ridiculous. Please draft this guy if you see him falling. Every time I get to Matt Boldy, I get more and more excited about him every single year that he's going to explode into this 270, 280 shot, 40-40 goal, assist, 80 point, a point a game player, whatever you want to call it, guys. This guy is going to be a monster this year. I'm more bullish on it this year than I was last year. I'm just blown away with how consistent he is as a player. His shooting percentage has been within 1% over the past 3 years. His shots per 60 have been within 0.8 of each other over the past 3 years. I just need 1 year. I need 1 year where he plays full-time with Kaprizov. I legitimately think he could be a 95-point player if that happens. He's talented enough to do that. He's also still incredibly young in his career. He's only going to be 23 this year. I'm expecting a massive breakout. He's going to be a star in this National Hockey League. This is the year it happens. 40-40, book it. Kyrou has played some center in his past, but he's normally been a right winger on that top St. Louis Blues line, skating alongside Robert Thomas. It's crazy to me that you're able to get a guy that has roughly 30 power play points, 30 goals, and 250 shots every single season. Kyrou is just an absolute beast in those 4 categories: the goals, assists, the power play points, the shots. Very, very good across the board. Doesn't really hit, doesn't really block. But at ADP 120, I don't care at that point about peripherals if I'm getting a 70+ point player with 35 goal upside. We've talked a lot about other right wing sleepers. Dylan Guenther comes to mind, JJ Peterka. I wanted to give some love to Jack Quinn because I think he is a legitimate option as a sleeper pick for this year in fantasy hockey. He was very solid last year before he got injured, where he had 19 points in 27 games. He also saw a decent shot rate out of Quinn last year at an 8 shots per 60, but I think there's just more opportunity for him this year within the top 6. We've already seen him skating alongside Dylan Cousins in camp, along with Yuri Kulich, another player we're kind of keeping an eye on. But for Quinn, I think he's got a ton of upside this year if he can stick in Buffalo's top 6. He's talented enough as a player. I think you guys are going to see a big breakout from him this year. I was saying more or less the same thing last year, but unfortunately he got injured. I think there's a better chance that Quinn establishes himself as a top 6 player this season. He's an absolute sleeper. Highly recommend you get him undrafted. Our best overall defenseman outside of ADP 24 is Rasmus Dahlin. It wasn't particularly close either, given the fact that Dahlin is so good in every single facet of fantasy hockey, the peripherals across the board, the shot volume, the power play one upside, the point totals. He's going to be a stud. He's only 23 years old. He's going to be absolutely unbelievable this season. I feel Buffalo's time is coming around with the way that their top 6 is looking. There's more talent there. Dahlin's going to be great this season. Draft him if you need an elite defenseman. Speaking of elite defenseman, Dougie Hamilton could legitimately be a league winner. At ADP 67, that is ridiculous with the amount of upside that you could see out of Dougie Hamilton. If he can stay healthy, I could see a 70-plus point season with close to 300 shots. The shot volume has always been Dougie's staple as a defenseman. He's the only one that can contest Roman Josi in terms of leading the defenseman in shots every single season. And that power play could go absolutely insane with the talent that's on it. Not even talking about 5-on-5, the power play could just be absolutely nuclear in New Jersey this year. I love everything to do about Dougie. I'm looking for him in every single one of my drafts. John Carlson has just been so incredibly consistent. He could easily have another 60-point year. He's going to run the top power play. There's no question there whatsoever. He's got a great shot volume for a defenseman, and the peripherals hits, again, not really there, but the blocks will be. At ADP 112, it's a great steal for you guys. Definitely look to draft this guy this year. Justin Falk already has a very high floor, and the reason why I think he could be a legit sleeper option this year is the fact that he could be power play 1 in St. Louis. He could quarterback that top power play. There's great talent there in Robert Thomas, Jordan Kyrou. And I think given the fact that Falk already has a very safe floor and you could potentially see that power play point total jump more significantly, he's a great pick, and his ADP shows that he's just going incredibly undervalued this year. Be sure to get your hands on Justin Falk later in your drafts. UC Saros could have an unbelievable season if Nashville puts it together based off of the personnel that they've brought in, and they could legitimately just send Saros to the absolute moon as the goaltender 1, basically. And this year, he could easily contest Igor and Helly, just given the fact that he's already got an elite volume to him and an elite pedigree in terms of his save percentage and goals against average. He's one of the best goalies in the league. And now if we see that win column come up, Saros could just be flat out the best goalie in fantasy hockey this year. My league winner for goalie is Jacob Markstrom. Again, I'm very bullish on the New Jersey Devils this season. I think they're going to be a great team. I think they're going to be a top 10 team in the league. And if Markstrom is the pure starter and plays the volume that we expect him to, he could have a fantastic season in fantasy hockey. It's possible this guy could be pushing 35 wins. Markstrom is still a great goalie, could easily be around a 910 save percentage and get you a ton of wins, given the fact that New Jersey should be an absolute wagon. Our best value goalie is Darcy Kemper at ADP 103. The fact that you can get a high volume starter on a wildcard / playoff team with really good numbers across the board is fantastic given ADP 103. There's been a little bit of hate surrounding this guy. I don't understand it because he did have an off year last year. Don't get me wrong. He's had over a 921 save percentage in 2 of the last 5 seasons, and 2 of the other last 5 seasons he's had over a 905 save percentage. So I don't get the hate around him. He's going to be a solid goalie. He's going to get a ton of workload in LA. I'm not really concerned about Copley as the backup by any means, so he should get a ton of volume, and LA is going to be a good, solid defensive team. I think Kemper's in for a really good spot this year, and I'm looking to draft him. Finally, our sleeper, Dustin Wolf. Mike talked about Justus Annunen earlier in his must-draft goalies video. I wanted to give some love to Wolf simply because of his elite pedigree. He was by far the best AHL goaltender last year. He was just absolutely ridiculous. He's played a very heavy workload on top of that. This guy's got nothing left to show in the AHL. It's onto the NHL for him, and I think he's going to get a ton of volume. I'm not worried at all about Dan Vladar taking away starts from this guy. I think Wolf can show his elite pedigree this year. Even though Calgary might not be the best team in the league, I think they're going to be a lot better than people think, and Wolf should be at the forefront and getting a ton of starts for you this season. That's going to do it for this video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed. I had a lot of fun putting this one together. Let me know in the comments down below what you agree with, what you disagree with. Always love hearing your guys' thoughts and inputs. As well, guys, be sure to hit that like button and that subscribe button. We have so much fantasy hockey content coming to you guys for the rest of fantasy hockey season as we get closer and closer to the start of the NHL and then into the NHL season. Super excited. That will do it for me, though. Have yourselves a fantastic rest of the day.